I was saying thank you for inviting me. I appreciate coming and being with your Sangha. I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland, the historic land of the Piscataway peoples. Happy to be in Dallas. It's been a while since I've been in Texas. Yeah, I think when I went through basic training at the age of 17 in the Air Force, I was in San Antonio.
We can hear you again.
Sorry?
We're still having trouble hearing you. It's not loud enough.
Okay, let me do the double. I'm not sure why it makes a difference with the. How's that?
That's better. Just voice doesn't get too soft. I think that's the issue.
I will try to remember to speak up. I can't say I always speak very loud. Okay, so let me get right into it then. I know this topic, the title at least, might seem a little bit controversial. Let's schedule, let's schedule when we're going to wake up, and that might almost feel like a little anti-dharma, given what we understand of the Dharma. And yet, there's a way that we can increase the conditions that are conducive to our awakening through our practice, because that's why we practice, right? No one practices and thinks, oh, in this moment of practice of sitting meditation, walking meditation, mindful eating, that they're going to wake up. Although it has happened, right? Someone, if we look at the scriptures, someone listening to a Dharma talk, and the person wakes up. But we don't hear a lot of that happening. What we know often is we practice and continue to practice and continue to practice. And over time, our mind becomes more clear and we're able to look more deeply into our suffering. We're able to actually be with our suffering and not run away from it so much, like we often do before we begin to practice. And this process of coming to comfort, coming to a place where we're okay to sit with our suffering, to look at all of it, to have the spaciousness to hold it so that we can move through healing and transformation, that takes the practice. That takes the over and over again coming to Sangha, right? Why do you come to Sangha? You come to Sangha to be supported in your practice, to see fellow practitioners mindfully walking. And we see a practitioner walking and it reminds us, yes, I want to walk mindfully as well. We see a person sitting mindfully, breathing, following their breath, and we're reminded, yes, I want to do that too. Or we see a person speaking mindfully, not using violent words or creating disharmony, and we think, I want to learn how to practice like that. So we are aware that we must continuously practice, and so this process of practicing, for those of us who've been practicing, we know that as we do it over the years, that it bears fruit. Yeah, there's a fruit, there's something that comes from it. It may look different for all of us, and yet we know that as the years continue, we become more calm, we become more happy in just being who we are, accepting who we are, being kinder to ourselves, being able to listen to others who we might disagree with without judging them, and being able to pause long enough to wonder and try to understand instead of judging and dismissing them from our lives because they're different or they say something that we don't necessarily agree with. And so this takes time as we grow the practice in us. So the scheduling is this understanding that we can actually schedule as we continue this path. We can actually prepare the path for our awakening, right? And the word scheduling, it can get caught up in a way of business. We might think, oh, it's like working, or I don't want to schedule my awakening because this is so natural. And yet, it really does require that we pay attention to scheduling, to how are we going to cultivate this path, right? So think of scheduling as the aspect of time in, and think of the path as the aspect of space, right? So I want to show you an image here. So can you see this image?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So what you see is a dam, and the water is falling. So we little baby waterfall here. So the water is coming, and yet it's only flowing down here and here, right? It won't let me go to the next one. I guess I have to. I want to go to this one now and show you why the water is only falling here and here, is because there's blockage here, right? There's leaves that have accumulated or gathered here. And so it's stopping the water from falling. Yeah. Maybe you see it a little easier here. So I want us to think about the scheduling in the same way. We can have more control, more directionality in this path of awakening. Just like you just saw the leaves that were stuck and preventing the water. So it's the same thing. If we don't notice in our lives what is preventing our flow in this practice, the practice won't flow. It'll be just like you saw in that image, where there's some that comes over here, and then there's some that's over there, but there's these leaves. If you look from the other side, just at the water falling, in the first image, you don't see the leaves blocking. But when you go up to the top, like I did to take those pictures, now you see why the water is not making its way, because there's something that's stopping it, right? There's a directionality in the water caused by what's there. This is the same thing. This is like scheduling, right? If we don't look at our, just sitting and looking at our daily lives, how does our day flow from one day to the next? How does the weekday flow? How does the weekend flow? And are we scheduling our practice time into it? Do we have a way to remind ourselves that whatever it is in your life, right, it looks completely different from all of us. When we go to a retreat center, we have a nice schedule, right? Especially if you're familiar with the Plum Village monasteries and centers, there's always a schedule. It's very similar, one monastery to the next. And you just flow, right? There's this saying, flow like the river. The Sangha flows like a river. All the drops of water come together. And the schedule allows us to move through the day. But we don't have the luxury of an entire community of practice flowing, helping us flow together based on a schedule that's set toward a path of awakening. in our daily lives. Or maybe you do, maybe you have those conditions. I dare say, though, that most of us in the world, we don't have those kinds of conditions in our lives where the schedule is set in such a way that we just flow, and every activity is a mindfulness activity that allows us to continuously to deepen our practice, to come back. The bell sounds, we come back to our breath. We're walking, we stop, take a breath. We're eating, if the bell sounds, you take a breath. This is a path that allows us to flow continuously. But we don't have that. We have a lot of blockages. We have a lot of leaves that's not allowing us to flow just continuously in our lives. And so in our daily lives, we have a choice to schedule our path so it's more conducive, that it nourishes this path of practice that will lead us into this space of waking up, remembering, and remembering again, and remembering again, right? And so do we schedule our morning sits? Or if we don't like to sit, maybe it's walking. Do we schedule a walking meditation? Do we have a night sit? Do we have an evening sit? Do we sit with our families or friends? Do we go to Sangha? Do we do things? It doesn't have to be just sitting or walking meditation. Do we say every morning when I'm making my breakfast, I'm going to do so mindfully, and schedule that, just like we schedule brushing our teeth? Do we walk, tell ourselves on the way to the bus or to the car every morning, that's going to be a mindful practice? Do we take a break at lunch and take the first 10 minutes to eat quietly, mindfully? Do we schedule exercise? Do we schedule play into our lives? So we're really good at scheduling in our little phones or, devices, all the things that we think are important. And there's a way that I think if we went and looked through our phones and our schedules, whether it's the phone, one of the devices, or a written calendar or a diary, I wonder how much in that daily life there's actually something that says, I don't know, 8 a.m. mindful eating, or 6 p.m. mindful eating, or 11:30 a.m. or 12:30 a.m. p.m. mindful eating, or the scheduled time for play, or there's a scheduled time for rest if there's an opportunity to rest sometime during the day. So the invitation is nothing new here. I'm not saying anything you haven't heard from someone else, I'm sure. What I'm suggesting, though, is that if we don't actually schedule in practice, that practice becomes something we do when we have time. So I have friends who, at the beginning of the year, they schedule their retreat, the retreat they'll attend, or retreats they'll attend in that year. So the time for a retreat doesn't happen if there's extra time left for them. It actually happens, it's scheduled time. So it becomes as important as whatever else that we feel it's important enough to partition off in our lives. So the world is the world as it is, and there's a lot going on, and there's a invitation for us to really continue to step into our practice in a way as we're taught, which is the world is on fire. What are we doing to take care of that fire? Are we stepping daily, and then when the time comes, we look at the fire and say, oh, there's something I might do to help that fire be extinguished? Or do we see that there's something that needs to be addressed? And so we take it so seriously that we're intentional in how we practice. So we all know that often if we don't set intention, we don't carry out something, we don't follow up with action, words, or even thought. So just as we set intentions, at the beginning of practice, sometimes we set an intention, I'm going to practice like this. So do we do that at the beginning of our day? My intention today is to bring joy to someone, to offer a smile to others, to say a kind word to someone. Do we set intentions like that, just like we do at the beginning of practice? And in this way, our whole day becomes a day of practice, right? And at the end of our day, do we offer gratitude for the day? Or do we offer gratitude for anyone that offered us a glimpse of kindness or an act of kindness? So are we intentional? Do we actually, and maybe we need to schedule that, right? In our schedule, at wake time, we offer intention. And at nighttime, before we close our eyes, we actually schedule a gratitude, 3 gratitudes, 3 things I was grateful for today. Having breath again, having people in my life who care for me, having enough to provide shelter and food for myself. There's so many things to be grateful for. And all these small pieces, all these drops continue. And this is the path. This is the path that sets us toward our deeper understanding, our understanding that brings us closer to each other, understanding ourselves so we understand others. So I'm going to stop there. I welcome any thoughts, any questions or comments. And particularly, I welcome comments from those who are already doing this practice, because I'm sure some folks are doing it already. And as we know, when we hear the experience of others, it's our mindfulness bell to remind us of something we might want to do or some practice we want to take up. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your comments and questions. Thank you.